Well, I'm really excited to be able to bring on Kathleen. I saw her last night in the experiencer panel, and I think when you did another Portal to Ascension, she spoke, and I don't know her personally, but I was fascinated with some of the things she was talking about with Barney and Betty Hill. And Alan, you seem to know a lot about Kathleen.
Well, she's yeah, I mean, she's part of such a, I mean, her connection to Betty Hill and the beginnings of the abduction phenomena and just her own research and her own experiences. Kathleen, why don't you put your camera on? And hi.
Hi, Kathleen. I love that you've been a social worker and an educator, and it looks like you do regression hypnosis and even though you're telling the stories of your aunt and uncle, you're phenomenal in yourself, and you're doing all sorts of research now. And I know that you're yesterday when you talked about this project that you've been working on, I can't wait for you to dive in and share with us your findings.
Well, I also have to say about Kathleen, she is very grounded in all aspects of the phenomena. I mean, she could go really out there like a lot of us, and is also very grounded in the practical understanding of what's really going on. So I'm so happy you're here doing a presentation, Kathleen.
Well, thank you. And it's great to be with you. And I'd like to share the screen and bring up my presentation. Yes. So there we are.
We're at 2:15. Let's dive in. I'm super excited.
Let's see. Slideshow. Come on, slideshow. Okay, here we are. So I titled this Awakening, Messages from Non-Human Intelligence. And that is something that I would never have dreamed of when I started as a UFO investigator. Now, I was 13 when my aunt and uncle, Betty and Barney Hill, had their experience. And I met most of the original investigators and ended up interviewing all of the ones who were alive when I was doing my research and investigation over a number of years for my book, Captured. I really wanted to know what was happening. And at that time, I was very much, you talk about grounded, I was very much grounded in physical evidence. I was looking at all of this in terms of the physical and did not move beyond that. I'm looking for my, okay, there we are, so you can see me talking. So my background is in social science, and I have to say from the research that I've done, I came to the realization that the academic study of psychology, psychologists are the most closed-minded of any group regarding UFOs and contact and the paranormal. When I was in college, these things were happening in my life, but I was being taught in college that it was all my imagination, that there had to be a psychological explanation for it. And I think that's why I was so grounded in the physical, because I was looking for physical evidence. In those days, you had to have a massive amount of physical evidence and have that supported by scientists in order to even make a claim. And I had never intended to talk about my own experiences, but just within recent years, I decided to come forward because so many psychics and mediums were coming up to me, and they were saying, you know, you really need to talk about your own experiences because they will help so many people. So I hope that you read the top there. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens, Carl Jung. So I'll move this ahead. So the first introduction that I had to the interdimensional and communication with entities that you cannot see was through Rear Admiral Herbert Knowles. And my aunt and uncle, Betty and Barney Hill, knew him, they'd met him. Frances Swan was a woman who was a neighbor of his. And this is Helen and Herbert Knowles. And she wrote a letter to Betty. And I was very interested in this because Betty didn't tell me a great deal about any of this, but she had written to Helen Knowles about the people from Washington going up to do an investigation on Frances Swan. So she wrote, Herbie not only helped her out, but personally endorsed her letter after he read it. Then, because it contained information of vital national importance, he addressed a personal letter to Washington, which brought a group of departmental top brass to our house. Much correspondence ensued, and when they learned that the information described in her letter was not orthodox or obtained by conventional means, they withdrew their interest and went home. And then she said, and I was getting tired of making sandwiches for that crowd during that time. So we are led to believe that they lost interest. But if you dig deeper, you find out that they actually did retain interest. And I was very lucky when Admiral Knowles' granddaughter heard me, I guess, on a radio show, and I was talking about how I had been looking for the correspondence files with Frances Swan, and Admiral Knowles' granddaughter brought me a thick packet of information, and it was very valuable information indeed. So these are the primary people who are involved. Admiral Knowles on the left, he was in the submarine service, a commander. He was served in both wars, World War I and World War II. And then in his retirement, he served on the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomena's board of directors. And then from Canada, their UFO guy from Project Magnet, Project Second Story, he was a senior radio engineer for Transport Canada's broadcast and measurements section. And his name is Wilbert Smith. He had an incredible amount of knowledge and interest in visitation by these non-human entities and worked toward being able to communicate with them directly. I also found out that other government officials did as well. Well, when Mrs. Swan took the letter, or more than a letter, a packet of information to Admiral Knowles' home, he was so impressed that he wrote a letter to Margaret Chase Smith and to Dwight Eisenhower. He said, Mrs. Swan exhibited the ability to answer scientific questions well beyond her level of education, and the answers were given to her by an alien named Alpha. And Alpha claimed to be on a gigantic spaceship in not too far out in our galaxy, even in our solar system. And that this giant spaceship had motherships and smaller, what they called bells. And so this letter was sent to Dwight Eisenhower. It went to the US Navy, the Canadian government, and the FBI, the CIA, the Air Force, and they all joined in an investigation. And the CIA was very actively involved in this. So here is some of the evidence that there was indeed an investigation, and there was indeed a Mrs. Frances Swan. The subject of that memorandum has her name, and this is from the Strategic Air Command. Well, I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to be talking about the present. This dates back to 1954 to 1956, but I wanted to talk to you about what we know from years ago. Wilbert Smith wrote to Admiral Knowles, "I'm satisfied that Swan's contact was authentic because the communications are self-consistent. They checked well with similar material obtained through other contexts that for the same reasons I think are authentic, and there has been little or no opportunity for collusion. The predictions given by her contacts have enjoyed more hits than misses." And there are always some misses. As I look more and more into this phenomena, I know that it is not entirely consistent. So this is the ET's major concerns. You must stop polluting the earth. 1954, they're saying this. Humans must become more spiritual and raise their vibrational level. We will provide competent teachers to educate all of you. There is a displaced magnetic field problem on Earth caused by nuclear explosions. We're working to repair this. And they said that the problem that we are creating for them is that a nuclear explosion tears into that membrane between the dimensions and carries damage out into the other dimensions, into their, what they call, universe. They say all vibration is sound. Sound waves permeate the universe and affect the human body. Become peaceful and your sound will create peace. Admiral Knowles wrote to Wilbert Smith, "Out of all of this is later on, I believe the following basic facts have been established. Flying saucers are real and come from outer space. The real important thing to know about them is why they are here. Their source and mechanics are merely incidental. Their people have contacted people all over the earth in various ways, trying to get to us a common message about coming events. No one nation, people, or area is being shown preference, and none will be. Any technical knowledge gained from them will be so incomplete that no nation can take advantage of it, to the detriment of other nations." So, they realize that we're a warrior race, and they had to put their checks on us. And absolute neutrality is a requisite in all their contacts with us. Beware of all reports that show preference or partiality on their part. And the days we are now living in come the closest to being the latter days described in biblical prophecies that mankind has experienced in the last 3,000 to 4,000 years. So that's just generally a short overview. I'm writing about this in a new book that I'm working on. I hope to have that published soon. And so I want to talk now about my personal awakening. Because I had that information from Admiral Knowles and Francis Swan and Wilbert Smith for 10 years before I ever mentioned it, because it was taboo in the UFO community. I would have been laughed at. I would have been criticized. But I finally did so much of my own research, investigation, and experimentation that I said, I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to tell the truth to everyone, and I don't care what the consequences are. Here I was, before I made that decision, I worked with nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman for 14 years. We wrote 3 books together, and I wrote 2 other books, one with Denise Stoner and one called Extraterrestrial Contact. And that book's kind of an overview on contact phenomena. So, and you can see me recently, the change in me. I think I look different than I used to look. So this all began as a secret experiment that I was taking place in. When I told Stanton about it shortly before his death, he was furious with me. He said that I would not go down well in UFO history doing this kind of work. And I just said, I don't care. I'm going to be a true scientist. I'm not going to scoff at the things that are not part of the zeitgeist of the old guard. There are discoveries to be made and truths to be told. So Stanton and I were speaking. We did a joint lecture at the 2016 Mutual UFO Symposium in Orlando, Florida. It was my presentation, but I asked Stanton to come in at the end and to give us some of his pearls of wisdom, which everyone was delighted about. And I'm not criticizing Stanton. He criticized me, but I don't really care. So Dr. Melanie Barton Bragg is the lady with the red hair down in the sort of center left. And she is a psychotherapist. And I knew her before the symposium. And then Denise Stoner is on the right of Melanie. And Denise and I have worked together for years. Denise is a lifelong experiencer. We've done many investigations together. I was MUFON's Director of Experiencer Research and the research team for 10 years. I've stepped down from that to pursue the work that I'm doing. And on the left is Kevin Briggs. Kevin grew up in England. He's been in the United States now for about 20 years, maybe a little more now. And he, when he was a young boy, about 8 years old, was in his bathroom having a bath at night. And in the room materialized two very large humans. They weren't really humans, they just looked like humans. And they spoke to him and he was terrified. But then one named Ort came back to Kevin as an orb, and he remained with Kevin for an entire week as an orb and taught Kevin many things. And Kevin used what he was taught to astral project to his grandparents' house to visit his relatives. Kevin grew up and became a police officer in the UK. His wife was a research assistant at the university, and he has worked as a real estate agent in Florida. So Melanie met Kevin, and Kevin was in Denise's experiencer group at that symposium. And so Melanie contacted me and asked me to go to lunch with Kevin and her. And so I could meet him too. This is after the symposium. And so I agreed to do it. I didn't know anything about him at that point. And I said that I'd like Denise to join us because we work very closely together. So we did meet, and we had a nice lunch together. We met 2 or 3 times. And then finally, I invited everyone back to my house. And we were speaking to Kevin about Ort and Dee, the 2 that he had met. And he started to tell us about the Council of 8. And I didn't know if he was delusional or hoaxing or what this was. You always have to be skeptical until you lose your skepticism. Something happens. So you begin to realize that this is real. And that's what happened to me and to Melanie and Denise as we went on. And Kevin was talking to us, and all of a sudden he started channeling for the first time. Denise and Melanie realized this, but I didn't even realize it. And the next thing we knew, we started meeting via Skype. And then he and his wife started inviting us to his home. Well, Melanie lives in Tallahassee, and Denise lives north of Orlando. So we had to arrange for them to come and stay at my house. And lo and behold, Kevin lives in the town that I live in. So it was very easy for me. We met once a month. We were allowed to ask questions, and this was a learning experience for us. So early on, we had the ability to meet the Council of Eight, and each of them appeared to us, which was interesting because we couldn't see them, yet they spoke through Kevin. However, we could feel them as a strong tingling sensation in our bodies, especially with Ra. This is not the Egyptian god Ra. He has not been in the physical since Egyptian times, ancient Egypt times. He said he had a small voice there. And then Shiva. Shiva is the right side of Ra. And it is not the Indian Shiva, S-H-I-V-A. That's what they tell us. They're both ninth dimensional beings. And they have oversight of the fifth dimensional beings who belong to this council. So there's Ort and Dee, who look very human. There are Arcturians, they're larger than humans. Ra claims to be an Anunnaki. There's Zark. His name begins with J, but Zark. I met Zark. He liked my scientific mind, and he asked to meet with me. So they all agreed to show us their craft individually and to communicate with us if we could do that. So there was Orla the Tall White, Arna the Avian, Chica the Mantis, and Targ, a tall gray. And it was so interesting because being the UFO investigators that we were, we brought equipment. We brought a thermometer, a laser thermometer, and measured the room before the council came. And we noticed that the room increased, the temperature increased almost 6 degrees when the council came. But when Ra came and Ra spoke, it increased about 7 degrees. So it was even hotter in the area of the room where he was standing and communicating with us with a huge booming voice. And so Ra says that he is a watcher. And this is information that he gave us in the beginning of our contacts. We are here to guide and assist in the development of your species and your world. We planted your seed here. We helped to develop it. We introduced things to assist in your development. As for the other members of the Council of Eight, they are your extended families. You have a connection to our consciousness, to our souls, to our soul energy, which we all share. If we raise your level of consciousness to a higher level, you can achieve more. This is what we are trying to do here. You have been to this position before and you destroyed yourselves. We are fearful that you were in a position to do that again, and we will not allow it this time. We will intervene. He said the reveal, they talked a lot about the reveal, revealing themselves to humanity. He said the reveal is part of your natural process of your development. As your people mature, you will reach these higher levels of consciousness and an understanding of where you are in your galaxy. We have made our presence known to your governments. They know we are here. They have known we are here for several years. We have shown them that we are here. We have shown your military that we are here. They won't accept us. They fear us. We've shut down your missiles. We've disabled your missiles when you fired them. We flew a fleet of our craft from the north down through Russia, down through the Balkans, down through your Europe, and we turned around and went back again. We were seen on your radar. The Americans thought it was the Russians thought it was the Americans, and then they realized that it was us, but they still refused to acknowledge the fact that we are here. All your leaders know we are here. Your heads of industry know we are here. They just won't admit it to the population. So we have to try another method. If we land on your White House lawn or at the Kremlin, it will be seen as an invasion. We do not want that. So they have gone to people all around the world and asked people to share this message. And I thought that this message was so important that I became part of that. One of the questions that I asked early on, this was back in 2016, is I've begun to explore the similarities and differences between interdimensional phenomena and intelligent entities who travel in structured craft to determine whether ET visitation is the same or different than visitation by intra or intradimensional beings who simply step into our 3D reality here on Earth. Do you not yet have enough evidence to make this decision? Oh no, I said, I do not yet have enough evidence to make this decision. Can you elucidate us on this question? And Ra replied, there are two answers to your question. There are interdimensional beings who just live in the spiritual. These do transcend the dimensions from time to time. Then we have what you call extraterrestrials from different dimensions. The difference between the dimensions is only the difference in the vibrational frequencies that they exist in. So people get mistaken between the spiritual and the physical from different dimensions. The question we asked is, are you really ET beings, or are you from a parallel universe not far from our dimension? Will you explain that, please? And the answer was, you call us extraterrestrials. We live here in the same universe. We are life forms, as there are many life forms throughout the universe. It is you that labels us extraterrestrials. We mean to increase your level of consciousness, to assist in your evolution and development. That is why we are here. Ort and Dee have a physical in the 5th dimension, which is just a higher level of consciousness, understanding, and a physical vibration. So if we can raise your level of consciousness, we can meet that on the same level. We call this the reveal. So raising consciousness and spirituality among humans will increase the vibrational frequency that we exist in. And when we reach that frequency, we will be able to see these entities. I have seen them as shadow beings, one of them. I have seen the Shiva as sort of, I saw her feathers. She kind of looked like an angel to me. And those of us who were in the group were able to see them, but we are all experiencers. We did increase the size of the group over time, and we added experiencers, scientists, and skeptics. And what I can tell you is that all of the experiencers in the group felt the vibration, understood this, were able to communicate with these entities in meditative states, but the skeptics saw nothing and heard nothing. So, questions. Ross said that he is a watcher. What is a watcher? So we asked that of Ort. A watcher is a very experienced, what you call soul. They have had many incarnations over many thousands of years. With each incarnation, they learn more and ascend to the higher dimensions. They have different roles, one of them being to assist in the development of the human species. They also watch over different species that are not human. They can incarnate into the different species if they want to. Their purpose is to guide and assist in our development. And I asked this question to Shiva because it was presented to me. We have been hearing about an increased level of highly negative activity among some people who claim alien abduction. Do you know what is causing this and how it can be stopped? And Shiva replied, there is a great deal of negativity now within your planet. This is back in 2016 or 17. And she's really trying to control consciousness itself. If we have positive thoughts, then we share that consciously with others. If we have negative thoughts, then that affects others as well. You will see if you watch her television programs and read your newspapers, it is all negative now. The people who oversee your planet do not want it to develop any further. By feeding you negative information, it stunts that growth. There are those who do not wish for the reveal to happen. Some of the small grays who are not affiliated with the Council of Eight feed the negativity to stop the positive progression. And they also said that the reptilians were invited to join the Council of Eight, which is part of the Galactic Federation, but they chose not to join. And this is Zark, the gray scientists that I met with and learned a lot from. When it was time to show me a craft, I went outside, I live on a lake, and I sat out on my deck, looking out at the lake, anticipating that I was going to see a craft. I didn't see a craft. I felt Zark's presence. I received telepathic communication from Zark. And I looked out at what I saw as a circle of turbulent water. And I wondered, was this a craft that had cloaked itself? And Zark said it was not. He said that it was probably just a school of fish, but that his energy was causing this turbulence in the water. So then the question we asked is, what happens after the big or individual reveal? What is the purpose? Will we all be consciously aware and connected to one another and to our interdimensional beings? Zark replied, as I think you are aware, the reveal is a process. I think that you have discussed with Ort that this is a 3-stage process. The reason for the reveal is to expand your consciousness, to improve your planet, to improve your lives, and raise your frequency so you can join us in the 5th dimension. I think that this is one of your goals. The reveal is happening slowly. So I carried on a relationship with Zark for quite some time. All of the information that I have just given you here came from our monthly meetings. There is much, much more that is going to appear in the new book that I am writing with Kevin Briggs' permission, and that of Melanie Barton-Bragg and Denise Stoner as well. So here are some questions from the researchers to Ort, Kevin's primary Arcturian contact. So the question was, or actually it was a statement, please help us to understand what consciousness is. You know, how do you define consciousness? We all know that it's awareness. Awareness of what? And he said, we all share the same consciousness. We're individually conscious, as well as sharing consciousness itself. We, as you refer to us as extraterrestrials, have the same access to the same consciousness. It is one. This explains how I can use my consciousness through Kevin. And Zark has used his consciousness through me on one occasion when I let him come in front of Melanie and Denise. I attempted that at Kevin's house in front of this new group, and I was so nervous about doing this that I simply could not do it. It was later that evening that I was able to channel Zark in front of my friends. And so that was all a matter of knowing that I would not be harmed, that I controlled the strings, that I could let him in or reject him, and that I knew that he was of positive energy. We could all feel the positive energy. So my message to humanity out of all of this is, if we are to survive, we must lift up all life on our planet. And that means everything from the flora to the fauna, the insects, the animals, the humans, to everyone. Because we need to raise up this vibration. We need to stop polluting the earth. The ETs have been telling me this from the time I was first taken when I was a child, maybe earlier than age 17. I remember back to age 17, but I have not been hypnotized to an earlier time. Send love to the Earth's collective consciousness through prayer or meditation. This is extraordinarily important because of the negativity that has been dominating our planet for some time now. And I think that this is beginning to lift as all of us come together to impart this message. Project love wherever you go. If you're angry with someone, and you might want to tell them off, or you might want to cause harm to them, some people do, don't do it. Project love. Don't say to them, I love you, because if you do, they're going to become angrier. You project love to them so that that love will enter into their consciousness, and you keep projecting it, not just that one time, but when they're not aware of your presence. And then you will affect a change, a positive change in other people as well. So I'm going to stop the share now. I want to thank you very much, and come back and take any questions that anyone might have.
Well, first off, Kathleen, I want to say you learned yesterday when we were on the experiencer panel together that I cry a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was crying so much during your presentation, I had to go try to fix myself before I came back on.
Oh, my goodness.
And those tears are tears of remembrance. Mm-hmm. Who I told Neil I had to introduce you, and I didn't know why, but now I do. Mm-hmm. And I'm shaking because those messages are so needed right now on Earth. And if I could just ask every single person who sees this, who's with us live, or who sees this as a video, to do these things that Kathleen and our beautiful, I'm not going to call them extraterrestrials, I'm going to call them our star family. They're our family. We're connected to them. And these are benevolent beings that don't want to see us become extinct. And they gave me that message years ago. I was sitting in meditation. Do you ever find, Kathleen, that they're funny sometimes? They joke with you?
Zark is funny. He's done things such as rearranging the shoes in Kevin's wife's closet. She was thinking she had to rearrange her shoes. Well, one day she went in and they were all rearranged, and Zark took credit for that.
I love it.
And said that he had done it at an atomic level. He has moved things on the counter in Kevin's house. He played a trick on me once, and I said, don't do that. I don't think it's funny. So he hasn't tricked me ever since. He takes things from Melanie. He's been taking her jewelry from time to time. She's always looking for it. Finally, it reappears. And it's not that she's just misplaced it. So yes,
I've had that happen too. And I always think it's fairy energy. And I'm like, okay, fairies, I'm laughing, but I'm going to be late and I need my keys right now. Please make them reappear. And they always do. But when they gave me the message about evolve or become extinct, it was many years ago. And I was sitting right here in this same spot. I have an altar behind me and I was meditating in my bedroom. And they said, I hate to be crass, but I heard shit or get off the pot. And I'm in meditation and I'm not a deep meditator usually, you know, I'm kind of all over the place, but this one day they did that. And I was like, what the heck? Why would that come into my consciousness? And they said to me to get your attention. And then they gave me the real message, which was evolve or become extinct. And then they showed it to me that it's consciousness and that there is a universal consciousness, and each one of us has a responsibility to help others evolve in consciousness by starting with ourselves. And it moves out. Peace isn't going to happen intergalactically unless we start peace within ourselves. So I really got so much out of your presentation, and I was drawn to you because of the activism we have going on here around nuclear energy. They buried 72 canisters of nuclear waste 100 feet from our ocean, about 30 miles from my house. And I could go on and on about the corruption in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We're seeing all of this right now. But what I feel through your presentation is that we're learning that they are here to assist us. And that gave me great hope. I don't see any questions in the Q&A chat.
Well, I have to say, thank goodness for Kevin Briggs to have the courage to come forward to do this on behalf of the council. And I want to say also that my ET contacts told me that we humans are out of sync. Our technological progress has developed at a faster rate than our spiritual growth. And when this happens, it can lead to extinction as a result of the behavior. And that needs to be lifted. And it's extraordinarily important that all of us join together, everyone who's listening and all of us who speak. Thank you.
It's happening right now, Kathleen. I don't know if you know about things that are going on today with the whistleblower that came forward with on 60 Minutes last night and talked about what was going on with Facebook, and all of those platforms went down today. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and I think it needs to happen so that we can raise in consciousness. Yes. And technology, AI and all this stuff, it's all coming so fast, but if we don't get our consciousness in alignment and surpass it, you're exactly right. And I just want to say, I love you. I really and truly love you and appreciate you. I'm so grateful you were on the show, and so grateful to Neil and all of our other hosts for keeping this vibration going. And I personally would love to have you on Awakening Code Radio to talk to our listeners about that, even though they'll probably all see you here because we tell them to go watch Portal to Ascension, but to dig deeper on a one-on-one conversation about all of this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I knew there was a reason, and I want to thank them for coming in and making sure that I got to listen to what you had to say. It really impacted me greatly.
Well, thank you so much. And what you said last night on the panel had an impact on me, and I know that it had to have on others as well. It was just a wonderful panel.
Thank you.
And I thank Neil for putting all of this together.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. I had to just jump on because I wasn't going to jump on. I was going to go do something really quick and listen. But everything that you were saying was just so spot on in alignment with exactly where, like, I have been led to what I believe, I guess, at this point, after years of just being in this whole thing about the whole frequency thing and really just having to do the inner work before we even get to there, and the consciousness aspect of that our technology has increased at a speed faster than our actual human collective consciousness, it seems, even though that's expanding. But I'm saying, like, it's kind of, we need to catch up to the tools that we've created so that we can start utilizing them consciously rather and be tools of empowerment rather than tools of victimization and weaponization, which is what's happening with a lot of these technologies, you know? So I just wanted to come on and thank you for just sharing everything.
I'm so
My
glad
pleasure.
you did too.
Thank you.
Kathleen, I have to admit, I took screenshots of almost every single part of your presentation just so that I could reread it and let it permeate a little bit more. You're such a beautiful soul. We are so blessed by you.
Thank you so much. And I'm so pleased to be with all of you. And